I'm putting this video together to give us a better understanding of what the calibration process is for the sensors. You're not actually calibrating the sensor. You're calibrating the hub to the sensor that's connected to it. We're going to go in, run the normal calibration application. We're going to hunt and get connected status. And then right here in this position, we're going to put in number 1 so that we can get a reading out of just sensor number 1. And then click read. So what you see is puck number 1 gave a reading of 39. It just is a number. Cover it with our hand and click read again. We see we get a much larger number, 25,000. If we put a chip on there and tell it to read, we're going to get an even smaller number. So when we're calibrating, we want to make sure that the number we calibrate with isn't extremely high or way higher than the number that the chip gives us. And the reason I just showed this little test here is so you see what these numbers are doing and what the different things covering the sensors, what numbers those give you. We can also just hit read a bunch of times and get a whole bunch of different readings out of it. Now, when you see the sequence contains no elements, all that means is we were calling out to the sensor too fast and it wasn't able to give us a signal. That's somewhat normal. If you see that happening a lot, so if you're reading just one sensor and you're getting a whole bunch of these sequence contains no elements, it could be that that sensor is bad. We need to move that sensor to another spot and see if it follows or see if there's something wrong with that hub. So if it stays, let's say spot number 3 gave us the issue and we kept getting sequence contains no elements, we move that sensor to number 1 and it doesn't follow, but we test 3 and it's still doing it, that's a bad hub. But if it follows, then it's a bad sensor. But as you can see, we've gotten a whole bunch of different readings from 39, 35, 37, 32, 22, 15. So not a huge variance when you think about my hand being at 25,000 and the chip being in the 4,000 range. So these are all well under 40 or 50 at this point. If I put the chip on there and read it a bunch of times, now we see that before it was 4,000, now it's at 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. Here we can test sensor number 2. We see it's in the 120 range, or 120 range. Sensor 3, very close to sensor 1. So we're not seeing any real big variance out of any of the sensors at this point. What we want to do is just hit calibrate all positions. And now it says to place the darkest chip on sensor 1. We're not going to place anything on the sensor. And we're just going to hit OK. What's happening right now is it's calling out, or the hub is calling out to the sensor 30 times to get a reading. It's taking all those readings and it's saying the minimum received reading is 18. The max received reading was 40. And it's setting the ignore threshold to 100 units less than a minimum of 1,000. So really all we did is we set that sensor number 1 to 900. Anything we put on that sensor that doesn't read above 900 won't activate the sensor. But anything we put on there that reads over 900 will. And all of that is built into the default config. Same thing with sensor 2. We just hit OK. It came back with a minimum reading 120 and a max reading of 130. We set it to the same, 100 units less than 1,000. Do the same thing for 3, same thing for 4, 5, and 6. So once it's done, we're going to get connected status and just do a bunch of readings. You can click it one time, then hold enter, and place the chip on each sensor to see if it's working. You should put the chip on the sensor, move it around, make sure it stays working in each position that you put the chip. We can see here in my test it did work just fine.